How's it, chaps, and welcome back to another random video. Not really too sure what series or thing this falls under. I suppose it could be the travel series, but maybe also a little bit on the Burton Bulls side. You know, in the previous video we were talking about making these shirts and doing the whole dustbuster modification thing for camping. So yeah, wherever it fits in, well, that's where it is. But anyway, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about our camping setup this year. As you can see, this is the setup. A little bit different to what we had last year. So last year we actually had just a dome, as you can see, and we had a gazebo like kind of just butted up in front of it with a silver sheet on top. This year looking very similar actually, but this is actually an extension that is designed to go over the top of our dome. It's a Campmore product. I think it's called the Combo Senior. So quite a nice little thing. Well, not little, it's actually quite big. 3 by 3 meter dome tent, 3 by 3.5 meter kitchen area type of setup, and then a 1.8 meter gazebo veranda thingy. It actually works really well. Nice for, as you can see, the weather today is a bit rainy. We've had a bit of rain over this past probably 2 weeks that we've been here. So this is quite nice. Compared to the other side, or the other tent that we had. Just before we go any further with the video, shameless plug here. If you don't know what my channel is, youtube.com/Grant Burton, that's where you'll find me. It's the only one on YouTube. We are at Cefani. It's the, just hang on, actually. Forgot what the place was called. It's the Cefani Mouth Holiday Resort. So 2019, well, it's actually 2020 at the moment, but we arrived in 2019. So that's actually the place that we are at. We come here pretty regularly. Families and family friends have been coming here for like the last 25, 26, 27 odd years. So quite a special place for us. Anyway, let's go and have a look at the rest of the setup. Okay, so I suppose we could start off with the first bit that everybody always sees, that is the veranda. All of the items we've got, basically nice folding table, plastic table on the top, really easy to clean. It's got folding legs, so it folds up really nice and flat. This is a new purchase and it's working really well. Other things, you really need stools, you know, really to sit on and to put your feet on. Last year we had like plastic stools, really. They were these kind of big square, you know, just really cheap plastic stools. Now they work well, they don't rust, so that's what we normally use, but we just didn't have space this year, so we ended up buying these. Now these are also clearly little stools. They fold nice and flat and they just fold out like that. Pretty sturdy, not the cheapest things, and they do have a bit of steel on them, so not too sure how long this is going to last before it actually rusts, but they look fairly sturdy. Other things that we might actually need, well, not that we might need, that we've actually got. These are awesome little camping chair lounger things. Now we've got spider chairs, those funny camping fold up thingies. We don't actually really use them because it's so hot here. That thing's canvas. You sit in it and you actually sweat, whereas this is kind of like a mesh see-through type of thing, and also quite minimal, very comfortable, obviously a lot lower to the ground. So this is generally what we use on the veranda. We do have the other chairs as backup though. This is pretty much just a side view of the veranda, quite nice and wide, 1.8 meters end to end. This is the kitchen area, that 3 by 3.5 meter area that I was talking about. The basic things, as you can see here, we've got a table, we've got a fridge, freezer, some storage boxes, and a couple of things hanging up. The fridge is just a little bar fridge. Now this is by no means a camping fridge. This is meant for your bar at home. Quite a lot cheaper than buying an actual camping fridge. We've got one down there. We'll have a look at that later. But like, you know, you use this thing for a couple of years, and if it breaks, well, you just buy another one. And you can actually, for the price of this, you can buy roughly 4.5 to 5 of these compared to the cost of one camping freezer. So yeah, that's why we've gone for the little bar fridge. It is quite small, got some drinks in there, some basic food items, but most importantly is the drinks actually. It's also got a small freezer section. We don't really use it. As you can see, it doesn't even want to open. I think it's frozen closed. It's pretty useless, really small. Other things, we've got a toaster, kettle. This is actually part of the ice machine, so not to worry about that. And well, the ice machine, we're lucky enough to have electricity at all of these campsites, and this is kind of a luxury purchase. It's probably $150 odd, 2,000 Rand, and it runs all day, sometimes all night, and just provides us with nice ice. What else do we have here? Up top we've got our plug power arrangement. Now some of you might say that this is not really the best scenario to have everything in, but for me this just works. We have all of the plugs well off the ground into a very waterproof corner, and I prefer it this way. Everything's in one place. We can easily unplug everything just by unplugging a single plug, in case there are any problems, but that is also quite handy. Some of the other items on the table, we don't really have a like a cutlery drawer type thing. We've still got to get one of those. So we've just put all of our cutlery into Tupperware type things, plastic containers. Spices, of course you do need coffee. Don't ever run out of coffee. That's a very bad scenario to be in. Cutting boards, I really like these flexible cutting boards. They're really easy to wash compared to these kind of solid ones. I mean, it's nice to cut on this, but to wash it is actually quite a nightmare in a small wash basin. And of course the good old DeWalt torch. Now I take this everywhere that I go because it is really bright, lasts like about 10.5 or 11 hours, so keep that in mind. Always take a good camping torch with you. Next up we've got the first order retrieval system. Of course, if any of you have been watching my channel, especially right from the beginning, I said that I like that, and for our setup this works quite well, just using super I mean it's literally a couple of cents, so super cheap meat hooks for making biltong or just hanging meat, hooking those over the tent poles, and as we can see we can just hang everything up and everything is reachable with one easy movement. Some of the things that we kind of generally camp with, tongs, 2 pairs of tongs. We've got a little braai grid. This is more for toasted sandwiches. Scraper in here just in case we need to do some painting. Not really. I use that to clean the ash out of the braai. Everybody needs one of these things. That's a jaffle iron. For those of you who haven't seen these things before, Google it. They are really nice. Basic stuff like spatulas, I think they call these flat tooly things for making eggs, frying eggs. A little bit of a sore topic, I suppose, is a frying pan. Well, especially for us, we get mocked quite a lot about it. It's an expensive one, a Le Creuset frying pan. We come camping with it. Now, this is not probably the best thing to do, but we do look after it, and it makes cleaning up a breeze. I mean, there's literally no effort to cleaning a proper non-stick frying pan. Also makes cooking a lot easier. Scissors, we've got a little headlamp. Obviously we've got a grater here. Now this is not the apple grater, it's a cheese grater. We use it to grate cheese with. Normal drying towel things, that's just for doing the dishes, just drying up. Maybe one of them's also for drying your hands when you need to. And don't forget about this thing. Now again, some of you might say, well, let's light a fire the old school way of, not even with blitz, but with little plankies and a small little kindling. You make the little fire and then you slowly grow the fire, burning the bigger and heavier wood. We prefer to do it the easy way with gas. So this is a gas stick. Gas goes in the bottom, comes out here. Lots of little flames come out there. So especially when the wood is wet. Now that happens quite often at campsites. We don't have enough space to carry our own wood I don't even have a trailer actually, so everything goes in the back of my double cab bakkie, and we rarely have enough space to keep the wood, so we always end up buying at all of the campsites, and generally the wood is always wet, so very difficult to light. That makes life a whole lot easier. And also don't forget your apron. As much as you might not think you need one, you always need an apron, especially when frying bacon or fatty things like that. Down here we've got our gas bottle. Now we camp roughly, well, in this case we've camped for 3 weeks. We are nearing the end of that. As you can see, the grass is kind of growing through the ground sheet, but we've got a gas bottle, 5 kilograms, the old number 10. You don't really need more than 5 kilograms. We've never run out of gas before, but we do have a spare there's a little 3 kilogram bottle. So we use this one for cooking, and we use that one for lighting the fire with that fire stick. Simple little bin. It's actually a fold-up bin. Works really well. Packs nice and flat. Just opens up, and you use a plastic, or actually what is better to use is a paper bag, because it's more environmentally friendly. We've just run out of those. I mean, we've almost been here 3 weeks now. So easy little bin. And then something very important, and you know, this is why we bought a real name brand and expensive freezer. So camping freezer, as some of you might notice, it's an Engel, quite a good brand. Also very important to keep your stuff frozen and not to have to worry about it. That's why we wanted to go for a reputable brand. I mean, you can imagine you could have probably, you know, $200-300, you know, 2,000-3,000 rands worth of meat that could spoil if the freezer fails. This is 220 volts and 12 volts also. We're lucky enough that we don't actually have to run it off of 12 volts, because all of the campsites here, as I may have said before, have power 220 volts. But at some of the campsites we have been to, we put up a little solar panel, so it runs through a little inverter, runs off the car battery, and it works really, really well. One last thing, there's a little rubber mat. Don't leave your freezer or fridges, or try not leave anything stand directly on the ground, especially in rainy areas where the rain will just, or the water comes up from the ground, and it can ruin, well, this is all plastic, so it won't rust, but it can ruin electronics, and in some of the metal fridges it'll start rusting those. This also isn't the best scenario or the best thing to use, this foam. I would rather actually put it on a stand that is a little bit higher. This tends to damage the grass or the area underneath it. While I'm busy filming here, the monkeys are climbing in the trees, and they're going into our fellow caravanners' campsite. My wife is just trying to chase them quickly. I can't zoom in because this is not really a zoom lens, but they are in the trees. What? They're actually inside the caravan or inside the tent. So I think she's definitely going to go chase them away there. Well, looks like they've stolen an entire packet of bread rolls, and now they're all sitting in the trees chowing bread rolls. Check out this guy. This little chap seems to be having a ball, not perturbed by anything, just parking off there on the branch, chowing slowly his bread roll. Enough monkey business, excuse the pun. This was actually the perfect time to talk about these black storage containers here. As you can see, the monkeys have just run into that tent and stolen a couple of food items, which is exactly why we keep our food in these storage containers, for two reasons for that. And the second reason is when it rains, they are nicely sealed. I mean, they're perfectly sealed on the bottom. The lids open at the top, so there's never any worry about heavy rain or food being damaged by water coming up from the ground, or even, I mean, down there is the river, and when it rains really heavily, the river actually comes up here. So never any worry there. It's basically cheap insurance for your food. I mean, these things are like $8-9 each. That's like 130, 140 bucks, and they work nicely as transportation, devices or containers as well. Something that you're also going to see here is our table. Now, this is one of these folding tables. It's 1.8 meters long, folds in the middle, and the legs actually fold up inside here. So it's really a nice flat pack table. Something to consider if you have limited space. It's also quite light, so you're also trying to travel light. The other side of the kitchen is fairly boring. We've got our 25-liter water bottle. Quite handy to have one that's got a tap on. Also just standing on top of one of these storage containers, which we use for items that we hardly ever use, but definitely something worth having. We tend to fill this at each location. We don't actually travel with 25 liters of water because that's 25 kilograms. It's quite heavy, but sometimes we don't have that luxury, and we actually have to keep it or take it with us. In those cases, we actually travel with 5 5-liter bottles, and then we fill it into this big one, just in case while we're traveling those bottles break. We only lose 5 liters of water. You can imagine if this thing breaks while you're traveling, you're going to lose 25 liters at a time. Yeah, that's pretty much the other side of the kitchen. Not much to show here. Drymax, before we actually leave this part, this is something that's quite important to have, again, in the rainy areas. It's a semi-waterproof thing, and it's got a towel type of inside, also in the sleeves, so quite nice and warm, and just keeps the damp off of you. Also not an expensive item, maybe like $300, like $30 or $25. Next part of the setup is the dome tent. Now, this is quite a big tent, 3 by 3 meters by, I think it is 2.25 meters tall or 2.75 meters, can't quite remember, but well tall enough for me to stand in without any problems. Inside we've got a full double bed size bed, which is quite nice. I don't really like sleeping cramped up, although I love my wife to bits. But it's, you know, in this case, in especially where we're camping now, some of the nights are really hot and humid, and you kind of need your space. So not the easiest thing to carry around. It kind of folds up, so if you have a look underneath here, we've got a folding frame type of thing. Now this is a modification. I actually stripped a frame. This is one of those pull-out frames, and then you used to slide a blow-up mattress into it. Now the blow-up mattress is a really shit idea in my opinion. Look, it's nice for one-nighters, but for 3 weeks we want a proper bed. So I ended up taking that frame apart, and then we've got some wood here. Now this is 12mm plywood. I chose 12mm because it's not too heavy, and it is strong enough to provide a properly flat and sturdy base. So we've got that as a base. Now that just screws onto the top, drops in with a couple of 6mm screws with wing nuts. So really easy to assemble and disassemble, very quick as well. And then we've got the standard camping mattress. Now this is about 100mm thick. It's got in the 50mm bottom, it's got quite a hard foam, and then the 50mm on top is a nice soft foam. So overall works really well. Also a relatively expensive item, not break the bank expensive, but in my opinion, you buy once, you buy right, and it'll last many, many years. Other side of the tent, we've got our clothes racks. Now, for those of you who have seen these types of racks before, you will probably notice that they are actually vegetable racks meant for the kitchen. We find that they actually work quite well in the camping setup. Again, cheap as chips. I don't like overspending on items, well, certain items should I say, but especially these, you know, again, I think these things were like $200. It's like $15-20 for 3. So we've got 4 by 3, 12 shelves, as you can see, for some of my wife's clothes and my clothes. Then we've got like a little tech section at the top where we charge all of our phones. They're plastic, they're lightweight. Again, they're not going to rust if you are in damp areas. I mean, we are right by the coast here. Literally on the other side of this bush is the ocean, and that sea air, you can actually see it coming through every evening. So that is brilliant for this type of setup. In that corner we've got our laundry baskets. Nothing spectacular to see there, just some of our, I mean, how do you like this? I quite enjoy this. This is my bathroom bag, so I've got all of my shower gel and my shaver, which I clearly haven't used lately. Toothbrush, toothpaste, towel, some clothes in here. This is what I use when I go and shower. Of course, when you're camping, one must always remember, if you don't have ablutions, luckily we do. Maybe I'll show you those in another video. They've got showers, toilets, basins, the basic stuff that you need. But of course, if you're going into the bush, like some of the places we have been before, you've literally got nothing. You've got to take your own facilities with you, I think is probably the best that I can describe it. So yeah, let's go take a look at the back. Actually, before we take a look at the back, I forgot to mention the lighting setup here. So again, we are lucky enough to have power. There's like a little power, not power station, but a little power outlet that behind each campsite that you can plug into. We've got it's about a 20-meter lead that runs from that plug outlet or that power outlet into our tent, into that top section we saw earlier. And then we use 220 volt lights. Now I use just energy saver lights. They are cheap as chips again. Just a little plastic fitting, some flex, ripcord. I think it's, I mean, I don't know, this is literally cents in dollars and a couple of rand for this type of thing. Cheap and effective. It really works well. At the back of the tent, we've got our wash station and our laundry line. All of the clean laundry and towels hang on this. Very simple, just a piece of rope tied between two trees. This is kind of a home-brewed thing, again, because of the cost. I mean, the plastic containers, I didn't make those, we just bought those. Those are just normal little Addis containers, little drying rack here. But if you have a close look here at the frame, these little containers just slip into the frame. Now, this frame is actually from an aluminium folding table, which we don't use anymore because we've got the new plastic tables. And I kind of wanted to reuse it. And I also didn't really want to pay, geez, I think it was like 350 odd rand. It's like $30 for literally some aluminium, it's about 19 millimeter aluminium tubing, not painted, not anything, literally just the 6-meter piece that has been bent into this shape, bolted, and then bolted together on these 2 points down here, and then tied with a little bit of cable. I mean, really cheap and nasty, and that's how they're selling it in the shop. To me, no, I'm not paying that money for that type of thing. So I decided to repurpose the table. Really happy with it. It's actually quite a lot more sturdy than those ones that you buy. Of course, you can buy more expensive ones that are around about 1,000 rand, close to $100 each. You know, they've really just got a little bit of a rim table around it, but this thing works just fine. Some of the other small items that we have are something like this. This is our dopstick or drinks holder. As you can see, we use it as a bit of a, well, not a drying rack in this case because it's raining and making everything wet, but as a defrosting rack. We normally put, I mean, it's meant for drinks. You put your beer in there, but we normally actually just leave this outside in the sun with our meat to defrost. Quite a handy little device. You just got a peg in the bottom and you just push it into the ground. Also relatively cheap. I mean, this is like, I don't know, $5, maybe 70, 80 rand. Not bad. Some of the other small items that we bring along, this is kind of a luxury item. As you may have seen in a previous video, I was fixing it, but that is a dustbuster or just a handheld little vacuum. Being at the beach, sand just gets in everywhere and it's just really easy to use one of these to clean up. Of course, for the ground sheets, just a good old broom, that works really well, especially after the rain. Sometimes the ground, or I should say the sand, comes through the ground sheet. All you got to do is wait for it to dry and then you literally just sweep it off like you would sweep a normal floor. Also the grass, it works really well. Yeah, don't forget one of these things. Well, it doesn't have to be like this, but this is a peg hammer. It's got a hammer on one end and a pulling end on the other end, pointy bit. You could use a rubber mallet if you wanted to, but always a good idea to have one of those. You don't really want to be pushing in with your hands or your feet. It's just not a good idea. Whole lot of extra guy ropes. I've got, I mean, these are pre-made already, but I've got a couple of rolls of just nylon rope as spare. They are all in the back of the bakkie. I won't get them out now, but always a good idea to have some extra rope. A couple of extra pegs. Now these are just ground sheet pegs. You can see they've got a nice big flat washer on the top. But I mean, we've got a whole packet here. I think there's about 20 or so, 25 straight pegs in here, all spare pegs. And then we've got a whole lot of these bent pegs. We prefer to use these bent ones. Also, again, spares. A couple of dog bones. Always a good idea to have a few spares of those. And probably the most important thing, actually, not for our setup, since I drive a Toyota, they don't often break down. Don't have a caravan, so that can't break down because I don't have one. But often a lot of fellow campers need things fixed, and I always carry a little tool set. So got the basic spanners, screwdrivers, soldering iron, multimeter, some tape. Well, let's actually just have a look. Also some string. Got a vernier gauge. That's probably not really necessary. Some pliers, you know, the side cutting pliers, blunt nose pliers, that type of thing. Duct tape, really handy stuff. Just some extra wire, that type of thing. Just basic tools just to help you out in a pinch. So chaps, that's it for this episode of whatever series of videos this fits into. How do you like my setup? What do you think? Just let me know in the comments section below. There's probably things that I've forgotten to tell you, to show you. You know, that's going to happen. I didn't really script anything. I just thought, well, let me just make a quick video. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. We'll see how it works out over the next couple of camping trips. Maybe I'll give you some feedback after that. I'm going to make another video, by the way, of all of the little things that I've learned, like little camping tips and tricks about how to set things up. Little, you know, just little things that make your life a little bit easier, and things that I didn't know when I started buying various bits and pieces, and you know, arriving on campsite and then somebody shows you, but actually there's a better way or a different way of doing something. So that video is going to come up pretty soon, I hope. But other than that, I think that's about it. What do you guys think of this view? I mean, it's quite nice, right? I think so. That's why we come here. Cheers. Almost forgot. Subscribe, comment, thumbs up if you like the video. Do all of those good things. Cheers. We'll see you next time.